Stop. Before you keep reading their behavior as rejection, you need to hear this. The person treating you the coldest right now, there's a very real chance they are doing it because you matter, not in spite of it, because of it. And if you don't understand the mechanism behind that, you will keep responding to it in exactly the wrong way. And every time you do, you make it worse. I've sat with enough people in these relationships to tell you, the ones who get hurt the most aren't the ones who mattered the least. They're the ones who mattered the most and never knew it. Here's what nobody tells you about avoidant attachment. Closeness doesn't feel like safety to their nervous system. It feels like threat. And the bigger the threat their system registers, the harder it pulls away, which means the more irreplaceable you become to them. The more they love you, the more they need you, the more they genuinely cannot picture their life without you, the more intensely their system works to create distance from you. Research out of attachment labs at institutions like the University of Amsterdam and NYU confirms this. Avoidants don't reserve their deepest withdrawal for people they don't care about. They reserve it for the people who have gotten close enough to matter, close enough to hurt them, close enough to make them feel something they don't have the wiring to handle. And if you don't know that, if you're sitting there right now trying to figure out what you did wrong, why they went cold, why someone who used to look at you like you were everything is now treating you like an inconvenience, you're going to keep solving for the wrong problem. You'll shrink. You'll pull back. You'll try to need less. And every time you do, their system reads it as confirmation that the withdrawal worked. So it does it again. Harder. I work with clients in exactly the situation every week. People who are clearly loved, clearly wanted, and being treated with more coldness than people the avoidant barely knows. And they come to me convinced the answer is to somehow matter less. That logic will cost you everything if you don't correct it right now. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the avoidant goes coldest on the people who matter most. You're going to see why everything you've done to make them feel safer has been landing completely backwards. And you're going to understand what is actually happening inside their system when they go cold on someone they genuinely can't afford to lose, and what it means for how you show up. Stay with me, because this one reframes everything. But first, what does it actually mean to matter to an avoidant? Not to be tolerated, not to be kept around as a low-threat, emotionally manageable fixture they never have to fully show up for. What does it look like when someone who has spent their entire life building psychological walls around their own need for connection actually registers, at a deep level, that another person is irreplaceable to them? Their system doesn't respond with warmth. It responds with the only tools ever taught. Get distance before the distance gets made for you. The wall doesn't go up because they stop caring. It goes up because they care so much that their nervous system doesn't know what to do with it. That is not a contradiction. That is attachment theory in real life. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here's what makes this so devastating when you don't understand it. You're on the receiving end of the coldness. You don't know what's driving it. So you do what any reasonable person does. You adapt. You get quieter, more careful. You stop bringing your full self in because the last time you did, they shut down. And slowly, without meaning to, you disappear. Not because you left, because you learn it wasn't safe to stay fully present. And their system records that as proof. The withdrawal worked. Closeness backed off when I needed it to. This is a functional strategy. The pattern doesn't just continue. It calcifies. The person who matters most ends up feeling like the one who matters least. And neither of you can name exactly how you got there. This is what happens when we confuse an avoidance withdrawal with rejection. It isn't rejection. It is dysregulation in the direction of genuine attachment. And responding to it like rejection, retreating, shrinking, trying to want less, doesn't soothe them. It removes the one thing their system is, underneath all the defense, actually reaching toward. Most people assume the coldness is information about how the avoidant feels about them. The logic is completely natural. We're warm to the people we want close, cold to the people we want gone. So coldness means distance is wanted. Wrong. Here is exactly why. For an avoidant nervous system, coldness is not an expression of feeling. It is a management response to feeling too much. When you become genuinely important, when real dependency starts to register, when real risk of loss enters the picture, the system doesn't open up. It shuts down. It reaches for the only regulation tool it knows. The coldness you're experiencing is not the avoidant telling you that you don't matter. It is their system trying to survive the fact that you do. That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean you absorb it without naming it, but it completely changes what it means. And what it means changes everything about how you respond. Here is how this actually unfolds, because theory only means something when you can see it in real behavior. The first stage is activation. Something real happens between you, a moment of genuine closeness, a brush with vulnerability, a situation where the dependency between you becomes undeniable, where one of you needed the other in a way that actually registered. This is the trigger. Not a fight, not something you did wrong. A moment of real connection that their nervous system immediately marks as dangerous. The second stage is suppression. The avoidant does what they have always done when attachment activates. They compress it downward. They go quiet. They focus on logistics, tasks, surface-level things. They stop initiating. If you come toward them, they meet you at a fraction of the distance you're crossing. From the outside, it looks exactly like cooling off. But internally, this is not disengagement. This is a system working extremely hard to contain something it finds overwhelming. The third stage is displacement. The feeling doesn't disappear just because it's been suppressed. It goes somewhere. And it comes out sideways as irritability, as criticism, as a pointed coldness with no obvious source. You start to feel like you've done something wrong, without knowing what. You haven't. You are receiving the displaced pressure of feelings the avoidant cannot yet consciously access or tolerate. And because you're the closest person to them, you are the most direct target for where that pressure lands. The fourth stage is a return window, when the suppression cycle runs its course. And it always does, because you cannot indefinitely contain genuine attachment. The avoidant releases. They come back warmer, more present, sometimes almost confused about the distance that just happened. The window is real, and what you do in that window, and how you held yourself during the cold period, determines whether the next cycle goes deeper or begins slowly to break. Quick question before we go further. Which stage are you in right now? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and it matters. Now here is where people go wrong after understanding all of this. They wait. They hold through the cold periods. They show up warmly in the return windows. They stop taking the displacement personally. They become genuinely the most patient and emotionally regulated version of themselves. And they are still not being met, because the insight became an accommodation. Of course they went cold. They were overwhelmed. Of course they were irritable. They were suppressing. Of course I should hold through it. I understand them now. And understanding becomes a new, more sophisticated form of disappearing. That is a trap. And it's a cruel one, because it feels like growth. It feels like you're finally doing it right. But you have just built a more elegant version of the same cage. What actually works is not understanding the avoidant better, so you can absorb the cycle more gracefully. It is understanding yourself clearly enough that the cycle no longer has the same grip. When the withdrawal starts, don't chase it. Don't retreat from it either. Stay exactly where you are. When the displacement comes, when the coldness starts landing on you as criticism or irritability you didn't earn, name it plainly without drama. This doesn't feel like it's actually about me, and I'm not going to carry it as though it is. Not as a tactic, not to win a moment, because it's true. When the return window opens, meet it, but don't let it erase the cycle. Let the full arc of what happened be real and present in the relationship, even gently, even briefly. Make one ask this week, something real you actually need, and make it once, clearly, without softening it into something smaller. Then let it stand. Notice what you feel when you don't immediately cushion it. That feeling is the exact place this work begins. The more you matter to an avoidant, the harder their system works to create distance from you, until they develop capacity to tolerate how much you matter. That capacity doesn't grow in silence. It doesn't grow when the people closest to them disappear quietly under the weight of the cycle. It grows when someone stays real, stays present, refuses to vanish just because the avoidance system is asking them to. You maturing is not the problem. You disappearing in response to how they handle it. That is what keeps both of you stuck. If this reframed something for you, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You'd be surprised how many people are sitting in exactly this confusion right now. Next week, we're going into the exact moment an avoidant realizes the walls they built to protect themselves have become the thing that's costing them everything, and what finally makes them start to come down. You don't want to miss that one. I'll see you there.